insecure because you're taller than me.
You want to switch?
No, I'm joking.
Let's switch.
Do you want?
Why not? I hate being like towering over people. I hate it. So you get to sit on the blanket.
Okay, unless you want to.
No.
Okay.
See, I don't care.
Okay, this is better.
Yeah.
I was like, I feel weird.
Good. Let's do it. Hello. Okay.
Hi.
Oh my gosh, we're here. This is crazy.
Happening.
It's happening. Oh my god, you're my first guest on my podcast.
Yes. Thank you so much for having me.
Of course. Duh. So, guys, as you just heard by the lovely intro, I am here with the Kevin Crenshaw. He is this boss entrepreneur. He has so many things going. We're going to talk all about it, obviously.
All the things.
Thank you for being here, dude.
Seriously.
Dude. We're getting real informal in here. We are business people, I promise and assure you guys. We like to have fun.
We're business people, I promise.
I promise.
That's my certification.
Says anyone who's not a business person.
Yeah.
No, but really, I'm so happy to have you. Today, obviously, we're going to talk about kind of your story, your background, who you are, and how you got to the point that you're in, because it sounds like you've had a lot of success in your business, but you're not stopping anytime soon.
No.
You have a lot going. You're going to keep pushing, and I'm really inspired by your work ethic. I'm really inspired by everything you've already developed, and I would love to just chat about that. So do you want to give a little bit of a background on kind of what are you, right now in this moment, what do you have going?
Whew. That's a loaded question.
That's a lot.
So I just announced my tour. I'm going to 6 different cities. 2 of them have not been announced yet, but I'm going to be going to 6 different cities back-to-back weekends. I do a day-long immersion event to change your love life. And so I'm traveling the country and Canada to do that event. That's with my relationship coaching business. I'm also creating a top secret project that I can't talk about right now. That's coming out in about a month. And then I'm also creating a lot of programs and branding for that. So there's a lot of things in the fire within that company. I'm also launching I launched, it's already there, we already have clients, a social media growth company that's all about growing organically. And so that is in development right now, hardcore. And then I've got just a lot in my personal life as well, and great things, honestly. So that's been that. And you know, with all that though, I just want to say, like, I was, and we'll go into my story in a second, but I just put a close to the chapter of my group fitness coaching because I taught group fitness for the past 5 years. I've taught over 10,000 classes, and I taught my last one yesterday.
Oh my gosh, congrats. And
it
also that's bittersweet. Yeah.
So bittersweet.
Wow. So for how many years you said you were doing that?
5, and I was teaching 23 classes a day.
Oh my
for
god,
a period
that's
there.
a lot.
Or not a day. I'm sorry, a week.
Oh, a week. Still, that's still a lot.
Can't do that a day. Sorry, I've had too much caffeine. Let me say that. You know when you have so much caffeine that it does the opposite. That's what's happening to me right now. So if I have a brain fart, forgive me.
It's all good. This is a chill space. This is a chill podcast. No, and by the way, guys, I will absolutely link everything down below, so check in the show notes, check for his tour dates if you guys want to go get some love coaching, seriously powerful stuff. I'll also put, of course, all of his socials down below, so go give it a follow. Dang, that's insane. So closing a chapter, but that's what happens,
really
huh?
Up-leveling the next, and that's how you know, a lot of life from my experience is about letting go of things. It's not about attaining new. It's not about gaining. It's not about, I need this, so I'm going to go get it. It's about releasing things and unlearning things. And that's a lot of what I do with my coaching.
I think that's actually a really, really good point in terms of, like, the second I started thinking of my life and my business in the sense of actually, what am I letting go of to make room for this versus, you know, what do I need to add to my plate, or what do I need to start doing more of? It really does change things.
That's the freaking hustle bullshit.
Yeah, it is. And it absolutely is.
You know, led me down a path. I guess, can we get in my story? Because
this
ties in perfect with it.
Let's get right on into your story. What is your story? It's so inspiring.
So I grew up the shy nerd kid that didn't talk to anybody. I was super heavily medicated for ADD, ADHD, had sleep apnea, allergies, and asthma. I was taking breathing treatments every night and inhalers, and my escape was video games. And so I got extremely good at that, but I isolated myself. And you know, didn't talk to girls, sat by myself at lunch, the whole nine, super socially awkward because I didn't have any social skills. And that was my life growing up. And I remember just thinking in that time, who would care to come to my funeral if I ever died?
Wow.
And those thoughts coming through my head on an almost daily basis. And something finally snapped when the friends that I was hanging out with even started to pick on me because we were in middle school and, you know, they were getting girlfriends and I didn't talk to girls and it was this thing. And I just wanted to reset. And so fitness was my escape on that. and fell all into it with P90X. Shout out Beachbody. 'Cause I was a Beachbody coach for 4 years, and that's how I got my entrepreneurial start, actually.
Wow.
In personal growth and personal development. But I changed my fitness, or my appearance. I dropped all the medicine cold turkey, didn't tell anybody, got in trouble for it later. And then I was able to take control of myself and my ADD and everything. And my ego exploded because I went from the shy nerd kid that nobody talked to literally my name at school was Mr. P90X because I was shredded.
Yeah.
And all the people that used to pick on me asked me for advice.
Wow.
And I was like, what's going on here? And then one of them was like, dude, you changed my life.
Wow.
And I was addicted to that. And so that's when I went all into fitness and started teaching group fitness classes, personal training. I was a Beachbody coach, so doing online coaching, and was very successful at it in the beginning. And again, I already said I taught 23 classes a week at various gyms on top of going to school for exercise sports science. But that's not the entire story because I was very good at art and video games. And so I wanted to design video games. And I got a full ride to the Art Institute out in Nashville for a single painting that I did.
Oh, wow.
And it's a $100,000 scholarship, and I turned it down right before I was about to move to Nashville because I was like, nah, fitness. Because I was like, I want to do what I'm passionate about. I want to fill up, as corny as it sounds, back then I was like, I'm going to fill up my heart and my bank account will worry about itself.
Yeah.
I was like, because I could go to school to be an artist, but that wouldn't have fulfilled me. And I had that discernment at an early age. And so I went all into fitness, but that also led me down a path of a lot of self-destruction with the whole hustle mentality. Because I also did fitness shows, which requires a lot of discipline, but that discipline that I seemed to have that was praised by a lot of people was actually self-suppression because I hated myself for a few different things that I blamed myself for, which goes into my relationship history, which is how I got started with relationship coaching. My high school sweetheart, my very first girlfriend, actually, we dated for 3-4 years. I proposed to her, so she was my ex-fiance, and then 6 months later she cheated on me. And that night I sped home, didn't give a fuck about my life, loaded up a pistol and held it in my mouth and almost committed suicide.
Oh my God.
And it was in that moment that something had me snapped, and I was like, what are you doing? And so I reached out to a friend of mine, mentor of mine, and he kind of helped me through the situation. And then the 2 relationships after her even cheated on me. And so that's when something in me snapped, and I was like, there's got to be more to love than this. If love is a point of life, which I believe it is, then it shouldn't be this painful. And so that's when I just started seeking answers. I was going to seminars, reading books, literally anything I could get my hands on. I was building a fitness career and business, but I was not reading books about nutrition or business or fitness. I was reading books about love and relationships, and all of my friends knew that, so that was like the go-to person for relationship advice. And it got to the point, again, long story short, where I was able to intervene and save one of my friends' marriages. And I was like, fuck, I'm good at this. and that lit me up. But I was so addicted to the high of the fitness stuff, and that was kind of like, I keep talking about an escape. To me, that was an escape when I put that mic on, because I could forget about anything that was going on in my life, and I was there to serve, and I got addicted to that feeling. But again, it became self-suppression.
Right.
I was beating myself up for the past with all of my relationships. The last one that cheated on me, kicked me out of her house yelling and calling me names, and because I loved her, I internalized it all, and so I believed it. And so I reclused and secluded myself again and retracted back and kind of dulled my light for a while. I was born and raised in Memphis, Tennessee, so that was all Memphis, and then I left. I just wanted to hit a reset again, and I left for Dallas, Texas, and that was the worst time I could have ever done it because my parents split up, and my mom was struggling financially. My dad was on his deathbed because he had leukemia. We didn't know if he was going to make it, but something in me was just like, I gotta move. They're gonna love me no matter what. They're my parents, and this is my life. So I left for Dallas and was actually homeless for 6 months, living out of my car. I didn't have money for food. I remember like going to the grocery store for my card getting declined. And going to my car and crying myself to sleep because I didn't see a light at the end of the tunnel. And but something in me just would not fucking give up on myself. And I knew I just wanted to help people, but my business wasn't doing so well. And again, with the fitness stuff, and I just couldn't give up. And I don't know what really got me through it, to be honest. I remember that time thinking that I was like a psychopath, or like I was literally crazy. Because I couldn't give up on health. I couldn't stop. But I couldn't eat. Like, I was starving. I had all this self-hate. So I was still showing up at the gym. And somehow I got a group fitness job again.
Wow.
And I was able to basically, like, get a job at Equinox out in Dallas. And I was homeless when I got that job. I just used the skills that I had. And I started making it up and up. And then I went to Tony Robbins' Unleash Power Within in Dallas, Texas. And that's when That was my second event because I actually crewed that one, and I've crewed now for 4 years, and he's a big part of my success. I owe it to him and that friend group that I've made from going to those events. But something in me went from having all the time in the world and no money because I valued my freedom and I had an ego around it, to all the money in the world and no time, because that's when the hustle thing really heightened for me. I was doing that online business, which wasn't doing so well, but it was a lot of time. I picked up group fitness again. I started doing personal training for a gym and on the side. And I was a server and a bartender at one of this restaurant. So I needed an apartment for myself, and I just went from, I don't care how the you feel, just work. And for 2 months, I worked 7 days a week, 20 hours a day for 2 months straight. And I got to the point that one day something in me snapped, because I was able to furnish the apartment. I was able to get started on my own feet and eating, but I hated my life. Again, that was coming from self-hate. All that push. I don't care how the fuck you feel, just do it.
Which is impressive in itself, though. A lot of people can't even push if they need to push. They just cannot.
Right. And again, that came from some insatiable...
You knew there was more. You knew that there was something bigger out there for you that was going to happen. 100%.
And so when I was going through that, one day, all of my bosses got on to me about forgetting. They were like, you're not showing up. You're not, you forgot this, you forgot this, you forgot this. All of them pulled me into their office. And then I was like, oh, okay, my brain cells are probably going because I'm not sleeping, but 3 or 4 hours a day. I'm still showing up in group fitness classes as the top instructor at that gym. So I slowly let go of the online business. I let go of serving and bartending because, again, I hated that. And I was in a position where I was just teaching group fitness classes and doing personal training, and I was actually comfortable, but I kind of needed that space to just get my head on and really figure out what I wanted to do. And I was dating a woman at the time who was a bit older than me. She was a coach as well, and I got to see into the future, and she didn't really have much time freedom. And I was like, okay, well, that's not what I want. Because she was a personal trainer, and I was like, yeah, I don't want to find myself in that situation. And she was able to, the catalyst for me to be able to see that I wanted more, which was when I created Kevin Crenshaw Fitness, which is my fitness company. And I went all in on that, was able to match my own income, and that's the first time I was, in my opinion, a real entrepreneur, building my own thing from nothing. And did that for a while, and really kind of, it was my testing grounds, looking back at it, to play around and to have fun and learn certain skills that have helped me out with what I do now. And that leads us to 2018, January of 2018. I got back from a trip in Toronto, actually, with all my Tony Robbins friends. We rented out a giant Airbnb and had a huge party for a week in Toronto. It was so fun. And I got back from that experience to mold in my apartment, and I was like, okay, I gotta leave. No. But then I was like, wait, there's not one city calling my name. I think my time's up in Dallas. And one of my friends was like, well, why don't you just travel the world? And I was like, why don't I? And so I sold, literally in 2 days, I sold everything, cut my lease, packed up a suitcase, and got a one-way ticket back to Toronto, and then I just traveled the world, and with no plan. And again, not really much of a income, because in that time, about month 2 into that travel, I realized fitness wasn't it for me. And it was a passion, but that wasn't my calling in life. And so that's what I tend to do. I just cut all the ties. I canceled all of my clients. I deleted my website. I deleted my LLC. I cut it all. That happened right before another breakup. And I found myself in Hawaii for a month, and I isolated myself to really find my purpose, which is interesting because I knew it. I was running from it and I was fighting it, which was relationship coaching. That's the purpose of my life, is to cultivate love for myself and others. And that is in direct correlation to everything. And this goes back into my story. And it took me a while to accept it, because I was like, I'm too young. I don't have the right relationship yet. Who's going to listen to me? No, you're the fitness guy. And I kind of just wrestled with it, and I negotiated with myself, and I launched as the heart guy a few months later after coming back from Australia for 3 months. I launched as the heart guy, which was more of like a heart-centric life coaching, because I learned Reiki and energy healing that year. And, I had launched my website, and it was just literally everything that I did. I was energy healing, it was fitness, it was now relationship coaching. And then I started my podcast because I knew I needed, teaching group fitness for me taught me a lot about getting outside of myself and the importance of serving, because it'll get you out of your head. Yeah. And I remember when my grandfather passed away, my dad texted me, and it was 3 minutes before the first class of 3 back-to-back classes. I looked at my phone, I saw the message, and it was unexpected. And I, just chills and the blood rushed through my body. And I looked at that text, I put it down, I went to the back where the equipment was, and nobody was back there because everybody's in the main room. Put my mic up, and I looked myself in the mirror, and I said, Kevin, this isn't fucking about you. And I put my mic down, and I taught 3 classes back to back. And that level of just, it's not about me.
Like you were showing up for them.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And they had no idea. They probably still have no idea what, because they show up for their own reasons.
Right.
And I was missing that when I was traveling. And so I started my podcast because it was like another avenue for me to be able to do that on a daily basis. It was a big reason for it. And in that episode, I think 3 or 4 was about masculine and feminine energy. And I got bombarded with questions about relationships. And so I'm like, oh, I guess I'm doing this. And so I tried to create another program about like heart-centricness, and it just kind of didn't work. And so the universe was like, you're doing it now, bitch. And so here we are, and it's not even a year into it, and it's blowing up because I'm in my purpose, and it lights me up. There's a lot more even this year that's happened in that story and other things, but I want you to talk.
Yeah, no, I first of all, incredible, like, you've definitely gone through so much, and but also what inspires me is that throughout every single thing, you always just knew, like, no, there's more for me, like, I'm not giving up, and you just kept going, and you knew that, like, just because one thing doesn't work out, or just because one door closes, or just because something bad happens, there is that light at the end of the tunnel, and there is something better for you, and you're probably still every day, like, you're still working towards figuring, really what is it, that every single day, like,
I think
inspires you.
It's the inspiration, but for everybody listening, that you're like, maybe, man, I wish I had that determination, or man, I wish I had that drive. Something in me doesn't want to give up, not just on me, but other people. It's not fucking about me. It's
That's the most important
I'm
thing.
here to give,
Yeah.
and I can't give up on myself for other people.
Yeah.
I'm literally not doing this for me. It's interesting because I wrestled with this question a few days ago. It's so selfish to wrestle with, am I enough? Or to even pay attention to it, because you're still focusing on yourself.
Right.
If you have a desire, desire comes from the Latin word desire, which means of the Father. So no matter what you believe spiritually, you're getting a divine calling to a thing, and to say that, oh, well, I'm not enough, or oh, it's not the right time, or oh, I don't think I can. Like, you're getting in the way of the divine road, that's the path that you're supposed to take from your higher self is telling you to do. And that's going to cause suffering. And that's why I suffered for so long, especially when I was traveling the world, because I knew what I needed to do, but I just didn't do it. I was holding back in myself.
Yeah. I think that's so powerful, is when so many people out there either don't necessarily have the drive, or they just are afraid to take risks. I was that way as well. Like, it's scary because you're thinking of yourself. And the second you shift your intention from income to impact, the income, one of my favorite things to say is, like, impact generates income. Like, if you are money focused, of course everyone wants to make money and be successful. That's, we want to thrive and succeed and work minimal hours but still make good money, of course. But if you're driven by that income and you're driven by those dollar figures, not driven by the actual impact you're giving, that's something I learned this past year. Like, I just want to help people, and I want to not look so much at the numbers or at the dollar figures, because if I'm actually succeeding at helping people and impacting people, the money comes. Right. It follows.
Well, and again, I think it's again what you're focusing on, because if you're focusing on the money, which you do need to do, that's a very interesting dynamic where it's like, don't focus on the money, but hey, you need to
but
eat.
Like, also, we pay bills. I know, it's so interesting.
That's the paradox of or the polarity of a lot of things, because it's like, oh, you're not supposed to care about somebody, but you care, or I don't care what people think of me, but you're supposed to care. It's a very interesting thing.
And something you said earlier really stuck out to me about kind of untraining and unlearning things and I talked about that a little bit in episode 1, how once you start to just observe the world and observe how society works and functions and how businesses run and how people act, there's all of this, like, oh, well, this is what you're supposed to do, or this is who you're supposed to be, or this is the path you're supposed to go on, and how it's really interesting to start thinking about the fact that there is no one path. There is no thing you're supposed to be doing. Yeah. And you can question that.
What you're supposed to do is your truth. And again, it goes back to the unlearning. We know how to be our truth. We know how to love. I'm a relationship coach. I'm not teaching people how to love. You know how to do it. You know what your truth is.
Totally.
I'm not giving advice. I'm helping you take your own advice. Yeah. And that's, again, getting out of your own way, which is unlearning the conditioning that's been placed on you, or that you've walked into since birth. And another thing I want to go back to really fast before we switch topics was, anybody listening who's struggling with the am I enough thing, I have this passion, I want to do something big, get specific about who you're helping. Because I think what made it me not give up, and what keeps me, it's not a push, it's a pull. I'm pulled to do what I do. I'm not forcing myself to do it, because I think about that man or that woman that's crying themselves to sleep at night, like I did, because of a breakup or because of some stress in relationships, and they don't see a light at the end of the tunnel, or they're suicidal. And if I don't show the up for myself, I may be the one person that switches something in them and they don't take their own life.
Yeah.
And that to me is what pulls me forward.
Totally.
And I know that's an extreme, but that's what causes me to show up every day. Like even today, before we started recording, like I told you, my stomach is killing me. I didn't sleep well last night. The past 3 days have been whack. Like something's up in my head or whatever. But I'm like, no, I need to show up.
Yeah.
And so I just do it anyway. And again, that's saying fuck it to perfection.
Yeah.
And just being real and showing up as your real self.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
You guys don't know, but we had a really interesting conversation about perfectionism the other day and just how perfect does not exist and how we all need to just take a step back and stop trying to be perfect because it's not a standard you'll ever hit. It's not, no.
Yeah.
So I'm happy you're here and I totally understand. It's like, it is really about focusing on what is that thing. And I think something I'd love to ask you is for those who maybe don't know what their purpose is yet or are still working on figuring it out. I know it's not an overnight thing, but do you have any advice for, if I were to step away right now from this podcast and think, okay, what really is my real purpose though? Because what you said about it pulling you instead of pushing you, that's also that hustle mentality. For those of you who don't know what we're talking about is like
hustle, grind, 24/7.
Yeah, people think they need to like work so many hours, that working hard means putting time and energy and sweat and tears into things. And like, yes, you can work hard, but you can also work hard and not be hustling and killing yourself doing it and still be successful. And that's something that you'll realize by doing it because you'll know when you're hustling and you'll say, there's got to be, that's kind of, I'm at a moment like that right now. Actually.
If you believe life is hard, it's going to be.
Yeah.
If you believe life is beautiful and easy, it's going to be.
Yeah.
It literally comes down to your beliefs. You'll make it hard if you believe that you have to hustle and grind to do something.
Totally.
And it's so going back, I forgot who said it, but it was, do you believe that you can make double the amount of money that you're making right now in the same hours and work ethic?
Yeah, 100%.
Okay, what about 1,000 times more money? In the same hours and work
I
ethic
mean,
that
yeah,
you're giving right now?
I think it's possible.
Okay, but for most people, they're like, wait, what?
No, but that's another.
But that's happening. People are there's
100%.
there's $1 billion deals going down today. You know what I mean? Like,
sure.
and that's
people are making that much money in their sleep, like literally.
And when you think about it like that, it's like, okay, there's not a lack of money out there,
right?
And number one, and for me, my money mindset was huge because, again, coming from being homeless, literally, when I moved to LA at the end of my whole nomadic journey, it was interesting because I was couch surfing for 6 months, and it was, but I was couch surfing when I was traveling, but again, couch surfing for 6 months, but I had no money. And the interesting part about that was, I've been in my place, 5? The beginning of this year, the end of last year, I should say, the end of 2018, I was like living off ramen, and you know what I mean? Yeah. And now I live in like literally my dream apartment, and I'm doing extremely well for myself. And it's that shift happened because I was like, I got rid of the whole thought in my head of, oh, that's too expensive.
Right.
That's so expensive.
Your
that rent is too expensive.
Yeah.
No, it's not. If I'm not going to spend $2,700 on myself, then what else am I not going to spend money on? If I'm not going to spend $50 on some really good crab legs, you know what I mean? Like, and I did. But it's learning to say that there's not a lack, and again, it's trusting that money is going to come back to you. And it's not. And this is might go against what some people think, but I don't budget. I don't budget for myself at all. I just don't look at it.
Well, I've heard
I make more money.
Right. No, I've heard like you want to live in abundance, like live the income level that you want.
Yeah.
And not, obviously, we're not saying go out and freaking blow your,
no.
It's not about that, but it's about not fretting over the little stuff, because if you're living in that abundance, then you're attracting that abundance. If you're saying, no, I do that as well. Like, I'll make a purchase and then I kind of like LOL at my future self paying the credit card bill like in a month. But I'm also like, no, but in a month I'll have twice as much money. Like, that's always my
trusting
mindset.
Yourself.
Yeah, no, and I'm putting it out there that like, no, it's fine because I'm going to have that much money then. And like, that's a huge, I think money mindset is huge. I was talking about fixed mindsets earlier on another episode and how we all have them, and it's tough to shake them, but that once we do, you're unlocking the most potential.
Well, a lot of what I do is deep inner healing is what I call it. But it's deep work that's not in your conscious mind. And one of the biggest shifts that happened for me this year, I was actually in a plant medicine ceremony sharing my story of my birth. Literally, my mom couldn't get pregnant for 2 years. And I came about. They thought I died a few months in, so they were going to clean her out. And then they're like, oh, wait, there's still a heartbeat. And then it was a high-risk pregnancy. She almost died. I almost died. And the message, subconsciously, that I got from that, as an infant being born
Yeah.
was that I'm not wanted, that something didn't want me here. And that's how I lived out my childhood.
And that's what you believe.
You know, exactly.
You
And this
truly
year,
believe it.
I shifted it from I'm unwanted. I had the awareness of it, first off, which gives you the opportunity to change. And I went from I'm not wanted to I was craved. Everybody in that room wanted me there, in that hospital room. Everyone who wasn't in that room wanted me there.
Yeah.
People that are alive now that know me wanted me. And that's before they even knew me. You know what I mean? And I see the impact of what I'm here to do in the world, and that medicine and me as a person is craved. 2 days later, I booked my first event.
Yeah.
And 2 weeks later, I had it. You know what I mean? And I just took massive action. That's where this tour came from.
Right.
That's where all these. That's why so much is happening so fast in my life. Is because I really genuinely believe in the depths of my soul that I am craved.
Yeah. Well,
There's no doubt about that.
Yeah.
People crave me, and it's not in an egotistical way. But it's shifting from I'm not wanted. So think about how I would show up in a room. Think about how I would dress. Think about how I would speak.
your beliefs of yourself is how you show up.
And I was fighting that whole I'm unwanted thing and trying to overdo it. Yeah. And that was out of seeking validation.
Right.
I was very validation seeking. I was extremely needy. And so but I didn't know it at the time. It seemed like I was just hustle, grind, like I'm doing it, you know, but it was like, I'm doing it so you can pay attention to me because I'm really not wanted. And that's the wound that was in me. Right. And now it's just like, I don't have to hustle. I don't have to prove shit. But I'm gonna serve. I'm gonna show up for you. And I'm gonna give you this medicine. Yeah. And you can take it or leave it. But this is what my work, by the way, is my medicine.
Yeah. To clarify. But yeah. So going back to kind of finding your purpose, I know people struggle with that a lot on a smaller scale and a bigger scale. I know for me, for example, like I feel so driven to do certain things, and I kind of have that feeling in my soul too that you have, where I'm like, I'm supposed to do this, 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 and this. But I do think like really refining that purpose down into like, what is my one purpose that is driving me to do those things? How does someone start to figure that out for themselves?
So to clarify, my purpose is not my work. My purpose is to cultivate love for myself and others. I can do that not working.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So my work just happens to be a vehicle that operates in alignment with my purpose and it fuels. I want to clarify that though, because I think a lot of people are like, I gotta find out what I'm passionate about.
Totally.
And it's like, well, to some extent. One thing that my friend Kevin Massenberg actually talks about, his whole thing is about purpose. And he was like, you know, if every job in the world paid you $1, what would you do?
Wow. So meaning like if every job...
Anything that you could ever do paid the same amount of money.
Yeah. Wow.
What would you do? That really puts it in perspective. Another way that Tony Robbins actually talks about it is you think about what you wanted to be when you were 2 years old, when you were 7 years old, or 2, 5, 7, 10, 15, 21, and think about why. Like, okay, so if you wanted to be a fireman, or why? If you wanted to be a princess, why? What about it was like calling you? What did you love about it?
It wasn't the income level.
Well, no. Yeah, but you want to write out the reasons why, and then you look at the parallel for all of it. Right?
Like,
so what is the matching parallel to all of those things? And then in that, you'll find something in relation to your purpose. And for me, I'm not going to give the exact details of the things, but when I looked at the parallel, it was I wanted to essentially be a hero and save people. I wanted to create an amazing experience to bring people together, like a community. And I just genuinely love people. I mean, my friends that I did hang out with, they got into wrestling and sports and stuff. And when we would play basketball or wrestle or whatever, I wouldn't want to hurt them. And they were like very aggressive. And I'm just like, I don't want to hurt you. Yeah. And that's just because I'm such a lover, I think. And that's what I do now.
Right.
And because I found that, I did that path.
So that's a good exercise. People can really.
And I was also in my purpose when I was doing group fitness.
Right.
I had an experience. I was being that hero, and I was loving people, because my message in teaching classes, if anybody's listening that's ever taken a class of mine, is like to love yourself and like showing up for yourself. And it's not doing this for me or because I told you to. You're here in the room.
You're here because you want to be here.
Exactly. And so I was in my purpose doing that, but I'm more in my purpose now when I'm talking as a love coach, talking about what I do. You know what I mean? So things can come like that. Roll with it. If I forgot the quote, but it says something like, if you've been through something and know how to help somebody and you're not helping them or you're not showing up and giving that, you're being selfish. Yeah. And so that's literally how this company came about. It was just kind of like, oh wow, I see a huge opportunity to help people. Totally. Let's do it.
Yeah. Well, that's incredible. I wish everyone was driven to help people the same way. I think, again, like, it really all comes down to, like, impact is what is first. If you are making an impact, the money just comes. Because I think a lot of people out there are fearful.
The money comes in direct relation to your perceived self-worth.
Yeah.
So there's a quote that your net worth equals your self-worth, but it's perceived self-worth because your self-worth never changes. How you view your self-worth does. And so it's you can help a ton of people and not make a cent.
Yep, that's true too.
But you got to also take care of yourself, right? And that's why, ever since living out here in LA, like I eat organic, I'm fueling my body with the best. I choose the best things because it makes me feel good about myself and operate at a higher level so that I can give more.
I've noticed that about myself as well. Like, if I feel like I'm not as healthy or not in shape, for me, like, I've had, like, weight fluctuations over years. When I was a kid, I was, like, super skinny, and then when I went through puberty and I, like, had to go on birth control for a medical reason, and I, like, gained all this weight. Not, like, all this weight. I mean, I was always fine. But for me, as, like, a teenager, even gaining a little bit of weight, I was like, like, what? And then went to college and, of course, was, like, drinking a lot. But then I, like, studied abroad in Spain and hardly ate and got skinny again. And then I graduated, and then I was, like, working way too hard, did not know how to cook for myself, like, first was trying to be an adult for the first time and, like, gained a bunch of weight again, and, like, was just so unhappy with how I looked, and how my unhappiness with how I looked reflected in literally everything I did. It was like the way that I showed up for work, the confidence I had in my ability at my job, with my friends. We would go out to bars, and it was like, oh, well, like, I'm not going to get hit on, and all my friends are. And, like, but that's what I believed, and that's because I didn't like myself and I didn't like how I looked. And then I found out I had all these food allergies, and I lost 30 pounds, and then I almost, like, got, like, too thin, and then I didn't like that either, but I was, like, happy that I was healthier. Now I'm finally, like, I know my diet that I need to have with the allergies, and I'm healthy. I've been working out all the time, and it's crazy how it's, like, even just appearance-wise, like, how I perceive how I look is how I show up in meetings. It's how I show up. It's how confident I am. People are always like, you are so confident, and they're like, oh, but you're, like, pretty, and I'm like, dude, no, it's not about anything like that. If you're confident and you're showing up every day, that's all it's about. It's about how you look.
It's about owning yourself.
Yeah, it's
and
about how you feel about yourself.
And going back, I want to go into the whole relationship coaching thing for a second, because that you hit a good point. Like, the more needy you are, the less attractive you are.
Totally.
Right? And talking about polarity, somebody could be extremely funny, and you find that attractive, and then you get closer and you're like, wait, that's all they are. Like, you need to be more. You need to show more of yourself. And if you haven't integrated all of yourself, or you don't show a certain side of yourself because you don't think somebody will like it, you're just being hard on yourself. And some people can see that. That'll be attractive to other people at that level. But the more aware you are of yourself, the more aware you can be of other people. And it's not in a judgmental way, but it is to say, like, you raise the standard for yourself. You'll raise the standard in of acceptance or admission into your life, and where who you choose to hang out with, and all of that. So one thing that's interesting is, the more that you don't give a fuck what other people think about you, the more attractive you are.
Yep. 100%.
You know what I mean? When you're like, I don't need your validation. I don't need your acceptance. But hey, I like you. That's like,
yeah.
You know what I mean?
Oh my gosh, yeah. Oh, I've had so many experiences like that where it's like, I, for example, am a super bubbly, quirky, like, out there person, super confident. The second I like someone, it's not that I'm, like, questioning what I'm doing, but I'm, like, aware of myself, and sometimes I become less of that, just, like, do whatever all the time, and just, I'm weird, but the weirdness is what actually attracts people to me. So then when I'm, like, not being myself, like, I've had a guy tell me, like, I don't get it, you're so confident, and you're so funny, and you're, like, whatever, but, like, you're so unsure of yourself around me, I feel like, and I'm like, duh, why do you think? It's because I like you, so I'm, like, awkward and, like, shy. I'm more shy around you. And then the second I, like, stop giving a shit again, I'm, like, my bubbly self, and he's, like, it's crazy.
It comes from the expectation.
So true.
It comes from past experience. You don't want to get hurt again. But that's the thing, that the same energy and mindset that builds a business does not build a relationship.
Totally.
And so that's happening because when you're building a business, even as a coach, it's a little bit more of you're selling yourself. But if you're selling a product or a service that's not you, you can very easily build it. It's all logical.
Yeah.
When it's a relationship, it's heart to heart. You're extremely vulnerable in that state, right? So relationships don't make your life; they magnify your life. So if there is any of that validation seekingness left, if there is any of this, it's not weak, but I'm going to call it weakness, where you lose that sense of confidence. It's just, that's been there. That's always there. It's just, it brings it to the surface. That's why relationships are called a mirror. It's not, I'm attracting douchebags. So I'm a douchebag. That's not what it means. It means the patterns of who you're attracting say something, and how you're acting around those people say something about you deep down, not the mask you're putting on. Right? And, you know, I even had this happen to me recently where I was like, fuck, like I still have some of that neediness left in me. And I was like, okay, well, I worked through that. And it's a constant progress. And when it comes to personal development, it's not like, oh, I've arrived. Right. I'm good. I'm set. I'm ready for a relationship now. No, life is going to give you a fucking relationship when it thinks you're ready for a relationship. And whether you like it or not, life is going to have its way with you. And that's and that's just being in the position then just to think, is life happening for me or to me? If you ever think, why does this keep happening to me? It's because you're not learning the lesson. No, well, you're not learning the lesson that life is trying to teach you.
Yeah. Honestly, yeah. That's absolutely the most true thing I've ever heard.
Once you learn the lesson, you break the pattern.
Yep.
So for me, I learned the lesson that I was giving to get. I was saying I love you so that I could hear I love you back. I was being overgiving so that they wouldn't leave. Right. That was me in those first 3 relationships, and that's why they all cheated on me, because it wasn't a conscious thing, but they energetically felt that, and so they sought out that strong "I don't need you" energy from another man. Does that make sense?
Totally.
And so I took ownership on that, and they weren't the cheating type at all. I caused that. And the perfect relationship, by the way, isn't found; it's co-created. I co-created them leaving. Because I was scared that they were going to leave. And what you focus on is what you get.
Yes. So much clarity. It's
so
true.
So if you focus on, oh my God, he's going to cheat on me. I got to check his phone all the time. I don't trust him. Hey, you're going out? Who are you going out with? You're pushing them away. Yes. Literally pushing them away because of your own insecurities. It has nothing to do about the other person and everything to do with yourself.
Yeah.
Every relationship has everything to do with yourself. I coach couples, but I only talk to one person. And we can change the entire marriage or the relationship.
Interesting. Wow.
Because of one person.
Yeah.
And so it's how you're showing up in that partnership. And the biggest way that modern relationships are quote unquote failing is because they say, I need love, so let me get into a relationship. And you go into it looking to get something.
Get it.
Instead of give. Yeah. And the relationships are a place to give. If you want to get to the point where, and this is the weird thing with self-love happening right now, where the self-love is, I'm strong and independent, I don't need a man or a woman. And then you get into a relationship, you're like, fuck, I need you. And then it's like this interesting polarity, right? And again, this goes back to that polarity that I'm talking about. Everything is polarity, and it's very, it's a paradox. Because it's like, how am I supposed to not need somebody, but then I meet this person and I fucking need them? Let's talk pregnancy, for example, okay? If you're about to give birth, you're not so strong and independent that you're going to be like, all right, I'm going to go in the closet. I'll come out in like a few hours. Like, no, you're at the hospital, or even if you're doing a home natural birth, you're surrounded by people supporting you. You cannot give birth to a thing, whether it be a person, a relationship, or a business, on your own.
Wow. That's true.
Self-love is a journey on your own. But when it comes to co-creation or creating anything or giving birth to anything, you have to build a team. You have to have people around you to support you. And so this whole self-love thing is blown up to an extreme, and that's where anything in excess is not a good thing.
Right.
And the excess of self-love is, this doesn't feel good, so I'm just going to walk away. And that's non-confrontation, which means you're avoiding the truth, and you're not going to learn a lesson, and you're going to stay stuck in the same place where you're a strong and independent woman who doesn't need a man, and then you cry yourself to sleep at night because you want a man.
Wow. That's so powerful, because oh my God.
Like,
I was going to say something. Yeah. I think that it has gotten a bit extreme with the self-love thing, in the sense that people are constantly preaching, like, love yourself all the time, no matter what. This is how I am, which I think I totally support and I agree with. But I think people can always also be better than what they are right now. And I think there's nothing, people train themselves to think it's wrong to want more, or that it's greedy to like be better or want something bigger or better. They're like, no, I'm trained to say, no, love yourself no matter what. Like, versus, for example, fitness.
It's acceptance versus like a striving. Yes. Well, and that's the, again, polarity of it. Yeah. You got to accept where you're at and be great with where you're at, but still move forward.
That's what I think I think.
And if you're just like, oh yeah, I love myself, but I don't have any goals.
No, that's the key. That's the key, I think, because that's something I think a lot of people struggle with is accepting themselves, but also being okay with wanting goals and wanting to be better, but not getting down on themselves for not being there yet. That was a big thing with fitness for me. It's like, everyone's like, just like love your body, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, no, like I want to be really ripped and in shape and hot. Like, no, I'm not okay with this. And, people sometimes view that as a negative thing. Like, no, accept yourself. And I'm like, But why not want to be a better version of myself? Like, no, I don't want to accept this laziness or this non-motivation to go to the gym or this, like, I'm eating whatever I want.
Which is,
I
again,
want.
the paradox of that is you have to accept where you're at in order to get what you want.
Totally.
So you have to look in the mirror and go, fuck, this is where I'm at.
Right.
And use that pain as leverage.
Yeah.
And that's where I want to talk about emotional intelligence real fast. Because if you want to numb yourself to feeling pain, which happens a lot when people go through breakups, they feel an immense amount of pain, and so they try to, fuck, I'm never going to feel that again.
Yeah.
So what happens is they think about it like a circle. And all over that circle is the extremes of every emotion. When you don't want to feel pain, you just simply shrink the circle. You can't avoid that one bit of it. It shrinks. Everything shrinks.
Right.
So then you don't feel as much happiness. You just numb yourself.
Everything shrinks.
And then you fall in love or you meet this person and you're like, oh my God, I'm feeling something again. So this circle expands and you get scared because you see the potential of that pain.
That's
again.
where I'm at right now. Woo!
But you have to recognize, again, any heightened emotion is a message to give you awareness on something. And that's it.
Yeah.
That's all it is. And there's no right or wrong. Pain is a part of life. Suffering is the choice. So if you stay in that pain and you live in that pain and that's who you are and you have pain friends and all you talk about is your pain, then that is a choice. But you can experience pain without suppressing it. I'm actually creating a program right now about getting over your ex. And that's part of the process is grief.
Yeah.
It's okay to cry it out, but if you fill yourself with alcohol or go out and party or find another relationship or pour all that energy into business or working out, you're avoiding. And what avoidance does is it creates neediness because you're going to press it under the rug, and then you're going to meet somebody down the road, even if you don't think you're ever going to date again in your life, which is bullshit. You're going to meet somebody down the road and that hurt is still in you. And it's like you expose that part of your life again and you latch onto that person because you don't want to go through that pain again. It's this very interesting thing that happens. So that's why it's important to work through your own quote unquote baggage.
Totally.
So that you can be the right person for the right person. It's not about finding the right person. You do need to have some awareness on what you're looking for and your non-negotiables and things like that. And I have a program for that coming out as well. But the last bit of that list, quote unquote, is who do you need to show up as? And going back to what you were saying, like, accept who you are. But, when I have people go through this process and they're writing out, I want somebody like this and somebody like this and somebody like this. And I'm talking super extreme specifics. It's not like, how tall are they? It's like, what are their fucking values in order? You know what I mean? Like getting crystal clear. You're going to do it and then think, this is a dream world. Like, this doesn't exist. And when you think that it doesn't exist or this person is out of your league, it's because you don't have the same expectations on yourself. So if you have these high standards and you're like, oh, that person's not out there, they're probably not out there based on your experience because you aren't showing up as that same standard.
Right. Yep. And that's the whole mirror thing too.
Exactly.
And that's in business as well. Like, if you're judging other people's success or you're jealous or you're shitting on rich people because they must be greedy and they're taking all the money,
you're not going to get rich.
Yeah, no, not at all.
That happened with me with Grant Cardone. I was judging the fuck out of him and then I was like, wait, this dude's a freaking millionaire. Like, he knows what he's talking about. I shifted my perspective and I got what I needed from him, and I was like, oh shit, and then my money mindset went up.
I literally like Ty Lopez, I would shit on him so hard. I'm like, he's the most annoying, like, oh my god, no, like, this guy's bullshit, whatever. Or even like, I used to be very judgmental of people who like didn't go to college, which is super unfair. Like, there are so many different paths, and going to college does not mean success or not success at all.
It's a path.
It's a path. It's one path. And like, sure, some people that I talk to maybe have missed some certain life experiences but like maybe they got those experiences in something else, like not necessarily in college, but maybe in starting a business or anything, literally. And like, I had to drop that judgment because it wasn't helping me at all. Like, why was I judging other people? How would I possibly get to where I want to be if I'm sitting there judging other people? A lot of my roommates and I, we all do like YouTube stuff, and I've been in the past like jealous of certain people's success over mine. Sometimes I've been like, like, I work way harder, my videos are way better, blah blah, why are they getting like all this reward and I'm not? And that was my mindset for a while, like, and then I literally just had to shut that part of my brain up and be like, yo, you need to be happy for them, and I genuinely am happy for them. And the more I'm outwardly like, oh my god, yes, congrats, that's incredible, like, you deserve this, the more like abundance like that comes to me. You feel it. I'm attracting it to myself.
That's the critic in you, your inner critic. That voice doesn't go away.
Yeah.
Fear doesn't go away. The very definition of courage is to act in spite of fear. It means that fear is there. And so you can't, it's going into archetypes, which is like king, warrior, a magician, and lover are the 4 main ones. If you Google archetypes, there's masculine and feminine archetypes, but it's basically the voice in your head that's in the commander seat. You have different personalities in yourself, right? And so I find it funny when somebody says they're bipolar. Well, like everybody is to some extent, right?
Totally.
And so it's just being aware of which voice is taking the command in the driver's seat of your brain. And if that judgmental, doubting, comparing voice is that critic in you. And so is your critic talking right now, or your king or your queen? You know what I mean? And that shift is what you did. You shut up that voice. And it's not to shut it up entirely, because it's still going to be there. And when you can recognize that it's still always going to be there, and you're not fighting it. Yeah. It's trying to keep you safe. And so when you can go, oh, interesting. I'm just trying to protect myself. Am I going to die in this situation? No. Awesome. You know, somebody's like, oh, just ask that person out. Well, no. The fear of rejection is very real. It's a chemical reaction that happens in your brain. The number 1 fear in the world is public speaking. Number 2 is death.
Wow.
Because the same chemical reaction happens in your brain.
Wow, yeah.
Because think tribal mankind, we still have a very old brain, and that your brain is here to help you survive. That's it. And so think Ice Age. The human race survived because we stuck together. And so if you were not accepted, and if you were rejected from the tribe, you were going to die. And
literally,
Yes, and that's still going on in our head. So if that person rejects me, or if my friends don't like me, or if, you know, I go into this business meeting and they don't like me, or if I'm not dressing right and they don't like me, if you are unaware of what's happening, you're relating that to death. Which is why a lot of people are extremely needy, or everything that they do is for attention and to seek validation or importance, so that they can be accepted, so that they cannot die. That's literally what's happening in your subconscious.
That's insane.
And so when you go, wait, I'm not going to die if I just go up to this chick and tell her she's hot. Well, like whatever it is, right? And or then it's like, oh, or I'm not going to die if I release this video of my story. Yeah. I'm not going to die if this person says no to my business. I'm not going to die if I don't make it to the gym today. I don't know, whatever it is.
Like, and also on that note too, if you don't ever do those things, you'll never then have the experience. Like, let's say you are rejected, or you do get broken up with, or you do get cheated on. You then having to experience that and grow through that pain and know how to handle that makes you actually then more prepared for that if that happened again. That's what it is for me. Like, that's why we were talking about this the other day. You guys weren't there, obviously, but we were talking about how, you know, people just need to put out content and not be afraid. And, you know, obviously fear is huge, but if you don't put it out, you have no feedback to go on. You cannot learn. Life, if it feels like life shits on you, it's because it does. And it's because when it's shitting on you, it's teaching you lessons. It's helping you grow. Like, now, I've had so many breakups. And I remember when I used to think, after my first breakup, I was like, I'm never going to feel this way again. Oh my God, I'm never going to like there's never going to be someone that I'm so in love with that I was this person. No, like it happens again. And the second it happens again, I'm like, oh my gosh. And I've gone through so many different kinds of like breakups that now I'm like, yeah, no one wants that. Like, no one wants that pain. No one asks for that. Like, it sucks. But I'm not afraid of it because I know how to handle it, and I know what's coming, and I know like this is going to suck temporarily, and then everything's going to be fine again.
Right. And that seeing that as your emotions don't last forever, but somehow subconsciously we think that it's going to last forever. Totally. And it's like, no, it's going to last for like a few hours.
It's so hard to imagine,
or
like,
a few days.
And when you're feeling it too, it's so hard to picture not feeling. Like, when you're in love with someone, it's so crazy and hard to picture not being in love with them.
Well, and that goes into, if you guys want to read into this a little bit more, the Heart Math Institute, you can go to heartmath.com, or there's a book called The Heart Math Solution. They did a bunch of studies and research about the heart, how in embryonic development, you have a heart before you have a brain.
Wow.
You have a heartbeat before you have a brain, and that's with the start of life. And so your heart has its own intelligence. You can surgically remove the heart, it still beats on its own. All that and your heart actually speaks to your brain, not the other way around. And all that to say is that falling in love and the feeling of falling in love is a very real chemical thing that happens in your body. It's not just that literally all these endorphins are released, and you know, even couples that have been married for 30 years that are still madly in love with each other, it's the same response as the first time they ever met, or sometimes a lot stronger because you've gone through things. And also heartbreak is a very real thing that happens. A part of your heart enlarges and forces the other parts of your heart to pump blood more, and that's why it hurts. And so your heart literally does shift, your physical heart, and so to ignore it and go, I'm just going to work more, is like breaking your leg and going, I'm just going to keep walking.
Yeah, oh my gosh, so true. That's for sure happened to me before. Both.
Same.
Me where I'm like, why does my physical heart like actually hurt now?
Because there's I mean
gosh.
again, heart math solution.
Yeah.
You guys gotta read into that, but yeah, it's good.
That's crazy. There's so much good stuff.
There is.
Yeah, we definitely shifted like into this whole relationship thing. We were talking about earlier. I forget what you said. You said a good quote, but this is everything that we're going to talk about on this podcast, everything we just spoke about. All of these fundamentals are applicable to like every part of life.
Yeah, what I said was the laws of success are universal.
Yes,
you know,
I love that.
If you're scared of rejection, you're gonna be scared of rejection in multiple areas of your life. Now you can fake it in one area, but it's still gonna be there.
Yep.
You know what I mean? And it's, if you want to live with integrity or congruence and all sides of yourself are integrated, then it's not. One side of your life is different than the other. It's not, I'm super confident in business, but not in my relationships. That's, you're out of integrity. You're out of harmony. I don't want to say balance. It's not the word. Harmony is opposites, going back to polarity, coming together, and the extremes operating at the same time, whether that's within yourself or with another person. That's, I don't give a fuck what you think, but I give a fuck what you think. And when you can have that, not balance, because that's 50-50, harmony is 100-100, that's where you can have a total of 200, which is why it's important for within a relationship for both people to give 100%. And if you are calling yourself a loving person, for all of you guys listening and that you care, I'm just going to light a fire under your ass right now and just say that if you're a loving person, you must be loving always and in all ways. That means when it's hard. That means when it's the last thing you want to do. That means when somebody breaks up with you. That means loving yourself and beating yourself. If you're beating yourself up for something, listen, Mother Teresa said it best. If you want to learn to love, you must learn to forgive. You have to forgive yourself for everything that you're beating yourself up for. We're all just people on a giant fucking rock. That's literally it. And when you can put it into perspective, you're like, oh shit, okay, like,
yep.
I'm okay. It's okay that I mess up. It's okay that I did this thing to this person. I did the best with what I had at the time. I believe that everybody has good intentions, and it's, now you know more, and now you know better. And so you get up and you go again, just like a 2-year-old. When they fall down, they'll cry it out a little bit, and then they get back up, and you're like, what? If you ever watch a 2-year-old, they could be bawling their eyes out, literally in an instant, they're so happy. And it's like, what just happened there? But that's because they're accepting their emotions. They're not pushing it down. If they were to fall and push it down and go, oh wait, I'm supposed to be happy and smile. Like, could you imagine a 2-year-old doing that? No. And you'd be like, what the fuck's wrong with this kid? But that's what everybody does. Yeah. And it's for acceptance. And it's honoring and respecting your emotions and yourself. My definition of self-love is self-respect. And so when you can respect anything that comes up for you and allow yourself to feel it, that's when and express your truth always and in all ways. That's also my definition of love, is truth. That's seeking your truth and seeking the truth in every situation and every interaction that you're with, and speaking your truth. That, to me, is the highest form of integrity and honor and love that you can experience and give and be. And the more that you are that, the less fucks you're going to give about other people, and the more you're going to create content, and the better your business is going to be, and the better your following is going to be, and all these other things, and your bank account, because you're just being yourself.
It all comes down to being yourself. But
I do want to say, you can quote unquote be yourself and not have awareness of what you're doing. So speaking your truth and not having awareness of what's happening around you and what you're doing to other people. So if you are hurt by something, you could think in that moment that your truth is you want to fuck that person up. That's your emotional state. Totally. What I mean by truth is a higher sense of truth, which you need to have intuition on. Is this coming from your pain or your hurt or your heart? Is this coming from your emotions or your higher self? Because your emotions are very fleeting. They're very extreme. Your higher self is very peaceful. It's this calm centeredness that's a knowing of a thing. And it's like, this is the direction. This is what you need to do. This is what you should do, right?
That's why I always wait to like respond to text or say something when I'm like emotional about something. And I'm always happy that I waited. Because I used to not. And then I'd be like, why did I say that? That was just my emotional self saying.
Exactly. And so it's having discernment and awareness with what you say, and knowing that your higher self isn't outside of you. And I don't want to get too energetic woo-woo on you guys, but you're that part of you that wants more and wants to help people is not outside of you. It is you. And so discernment on how you're showing up is key. So then you can have awareness and intuition and trust yourself. And a lot of people, I want to go really fast into the dating in the modern world, is like people are looking to somebody they can trust. And it's like, if you trust yourself, you can trust other people. And if other people fall on your trust and you made poor judgment, or it's not to say that you made poor judgment even. Maybe they just changed or something, or they're...
Or like,
how about this?
People are
they're
just
fucking
shitty.
human.
Yeah, people, yeah.
I wouldn't say that some people are... No,
some people are shitty.
I would say that they're unaware of what they're doing.
I think some people are genuinely
hurt people. Can we agree on that?
Agreed, 100%.
Okay.
I do think that everything negative, when people act out or
Yeah.
people lash out or people hurt others, they are hurting. 100%, yes. Well, I guess to wrap it up, we talked a lot about self-love and confidence and being sure of yourself, forgiving yourself, being able to let go of things, like learning from your experiences. What would be like your one piece of advice? I know this is endless. There's not just one thing. What would be your piece of advice for people who maybe are unsure of themselves? They're still working on building that confidence and figuring out who they are. What's something that people can think about or do every single day to improve their own view of themselves, I guess?
For me, when I was in that spot, I knew that fitness wasn't it for me, but I didn't see that far ahead. I didn't accept that far ahead with relationship coaching. It was a passion of mine. I wasn't thinking I was going to do it for the rest, that was going to be my career. But I had this knowing that fitness wasn't my thing. But it was right in front of me and it was at my feet. And so I just gave it my 100%. And so I think don't put pressure on yourself. Or another word for that is don't judge yourself for not knowing your purpose or not having the level of confidence you want or whatever. Just show up 100% of yourself, for yourself, always and in all ways. The best way to do that is discernment. What life is, your life is happening because of you. Your lack of confidence, if you're overweight, if you're in debt, if you're getting rejected all the time, especially if you're getting rejected all the time, because I'm creating a program on this tonight or tomorrow, is because you're rejecting yourself to some degree. And it's like, well, Kevin, why if other people rejected me, what does that have to do about my own rejection of myself? It's because they see it. Think about somebody that's an older person, wrinkled. They can be old, and they're old. Or they can be vibrant and attractive as an energy because they accept themselves. Somebody who's in a wheelchair, you could go up and talk to that person and it'd be awkward. Or somebody is in a wheelchair and maybe they deck their wheelchair out with lights and you're like, this guy's fucking rocking it, right?
Yeah.
It's not what's happened to you, it's how you're reacting and responding to that, and other people are a mirror for you. So that person who made it awkward that they were in a wheelchair was rejecting themselves, and so nobody talked to that person. When you were talking to the person in the wheelchair, you're like, man, I feel sorry for this guy. Okay, this is an awkward situation, I'm out. And then that person thinks, oh, people don't want to talk to me. Well, it's no, you're not accepting yourself. That other person accepted the fact that they were in a wheelchair and they made the best of it, and that's magnetic. So it's acceptance, number one.
Every single day starting to just accept yourself.
Drop your judgment and accept.
Yeah, I think that's the biggest thing.
And then the more of yourself that you can accept and integrate and show up as in the real world, the more attractive that is. And once you've mastered attraction, that's basically manifestation.
Yeah. And I also think like being okay, what you were saying, being okay with kind of what you're doing and putting your 100% in, even if you know that it's not something you want to be like doing long term, or whoever you are in that moment, if you're just giving it your all in that moment and accepting and being okay with the fact that, hey, this isn't my whole life, but I'm doing this now. Because every door that closes or that you choose to close or leave behind leads to the next door.
How you do one thing is how you do everything.
Yes.
So if you're not giving your 100% in this thing because you don't know if it's gonna be a forever, whether it's a business or a relationship, then you're gonna do everything half-assed.
Yes. Yeah.
And that's not showing up as 100% yourself.
No, and it's crazy to look back at like the relationships, the jobs I've had, like looking back at my life and thinking like, oh my gosh, I've done so many different things. And it's crazy to think like back when I did some internship in college and I'm like, wow, I'm in a totally different place right now. And then it's almost funny or like relationships, like I dated a guy when I was 15 to 17 and it's almost funny now to be like, why did I even like date someone? Like I wasn't going to marry him. But obviously no one can ever have that mentality. You can't be 15 and be like, well, I shouldn't date because I'm not going to end up marrying this person. So there's literally no point. Like, what's the point? But no, like that's not how it works. It feels good in the moment, and everything you do leads you to your next thing, leads you to learn. And
I want to say one thing, last thing is that I genuinely believe that you cannot fuck up in life.
I agree.
So if you think you did something and you're beating yourself up for it, everything you're going through right now is preparing you for what you asked for. And when you see it as that, the suffering or the pain or whatever you're experiencing right now is happening to shift you and mold you into what you're asking for. you'll be aware of what the lesson is, and you'll start to seek it out, and that's when it'll happen faster. But if you're just saying and suffering, going, oh my God, why does this keep happening to me? I hate my life. Then, like I used to, then you're going to stay stuck in that. So literally the way out is through. You have to go into it instead of avoiding.
And change your beliefs. Change your beliefs about yourself.
Yeah.
And about others. Because what you just said is such a good point, that how you do one thing is how you do everything. How you view other people is how you view yourself.
Yes.
If you're judging, if you're thinking
100%.
this person's evil, totally.
I view other people as everybody has good intentions because I know that I have good intentions.
And even like what we were just talking about, where I was like, I disagree with you, and instantly I realized, wait, no, I don't. I actually agree with you. But it's interesting because what I was trying to say is like, no, some people really just like are shitty, but like, no, actually, when you really think about it, like, yeah, people do shitty things, but they're not coming from usually
ill.
Yeah, exactly. And like, even just that in that very moment, I was being judgmental. And I was thinking, no. But then I was like, no, actually, because...
It's good awareness.
And I've also done shitty things because I've been hurting. And, we've all made mistakes like that. And it's just being aware of it. I wish you guys could see my face right now. I'm just like, jaw to the floor. Like, that was so... I mean, I could talk to you for literally hours about relationships and love. But also how all of these things really... are applicable to any part of your life. And I think that's what's powerful about what you do, is you're not just changing someone's outlook on love and relationships. You're not just coaching someone to have a better relationship, because you are, but you're actually changing the way people think and the way people communicate and the way people believe in themselves in any aspect of life. I think that that's huge. Like when I shifted how honest I've gone through phases of not being as honest as I should have been with someone about something, or wanting to sweep things under the rug, or wanting to, and then the second I shifted that in relationships, I shifted that in my life. And I started being more confrontational to my boss. When I used to work at a job and have a boss, I was more confrontational. I stood up for my values and what I felt like I deserved in terms of compensation. I asked for more raises. Like one little thing, like realizing, one flaw or one thing that you can change in love or relationships really does impact like the way that you act in every other aspect of your life. And I think that's one of the most powerful things to realize, is that the way that you're acting in this aspect of life is the way you're acting in every aspect. It's crazy.
Yeah.
I think that's powerful as shit. Anyway, guys, well, this has been a lot.
That's been.
And I guess, to sum it up, just I hope that you guys are inspired just by, obviously, Kevin has just like the best outlook, but as you heard from his story, it doesn't just happen overnight. Like everyone has a journey, and he obviously wasn't always this way and didn't always believe these things and believe in himself. So it's really inspiring to me, and I hope to you guys too, to know that no matter where you're at in life right now, no matter if you are struggling, you're in that current state, maybe, or you are already becoming successful, but wherever you are, there's room for improvement, and there's room to kick ass and do anything that you want, create any life that you want, any success, any desire, have any relationship and love, and basically do anything that you want. And I think you're a really good example of like, hell yeah, you can. Yeah. Like, you literally can. Yeah. So I hope that you guys found this inspiring and helpful, and I hope that you guys can start thinking about what your purpose is, because I know I'm going to go do my homework and figure out what is my purpose, and that your purpose isn't always your work.
Right.
But that also, on that note, you should be doing what you love, always.
100%.
Because there's no point in waking up, showing up every morning, and not loving your life.
No.
You spend more time working than you do doing anything
else, yeah.
So if you... Like, I don't really consider my job work. Like, I love it.
I don't either.
I love it so much.
Me, yeah.
And we talked about this to the point, I love it so much where I have to, like, stop myself.
Discipline yourself to stop working.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Like, I finally have started, like, forcing myself to have weekends.
Yeah.
Or to try to have weekends, and still I usually, like, don't. But, this past Saturday, I woke up and I was like, okay, I need to get this done. And my friends were like, hey, do you want to go out, like, to the beach or go to, like, this restaurant? Yeah. I was like, you know what, I do. Yes, because I need to sometimes have a social life.
Right. Well, especially in this day and age, being a CEO of your own business, it's a lot of what we do is online. And you don't want to isolate yourself behind a computer.
Oh, my God.
So go outside and breathe.
Yeah, totally.
Have fun with your friends, and you don't want to work yourself to the bone and look back on your life in regret saying, I wish I would have.
100%. And with that, everyone, go follow all of Kevin's social handles, which will be in the show notes. Take a listen to his podcast, too. If you guys are super into this the love stuff, which I mean everyone should be, I am, go take a look or take a listen. I always say like, see you next time on this podcast. I'm like, wait, you're not going to see me. Take a listen to his daily podcast. It's awesome. It's called The Heartbeat.
The Heartbeat.
The Heartbeat. Yes. So go take a listen to that and check out, I'll put all of his like tour information, all that too below.
Kev Crenshaw on Instagram.
Kev Crenshaw. Go give it a follow. But thank you so much for doing this. Really, I think
I appreciate it.
We could talk for so long. Like we have, oh my gosh.
We got something else coming out. There's gonna be something else.
There's gonna be more.
Just wait.
Leave. Remember, guys, always leave reviews and ratings. Again, like this podcast is for you, so your feedback.
This is the best episode.
For sure. But really, like, give feedback. Give honest feedback. I always appreciate it. I want to be serving you guys with this podcast, so please let me know your thoughts. Let me know what you want to hear about. Make sure to subscribe on iTunes, and remember, you can find this obviously on any platform that has podcasts. So
holla.
We will hopefully talk to you guys soon. He will be back, I'm sure.
I'll be back. 100%.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. See you guys.
See you next time. Amazing.